Take a listen at the Burkinabé President Captain Ibrahim Traore caution African youth against cowardice, treachery and incompetence in this address that he delivered on the African Youth Day 2024 in Burkina Faso, in which he also cautioned them against blindly believing misinformation or propaganda by the imperialists.
Bonjour à tous.
Hello everyone. I would like to welcome all the young people from the 13 regions who are in the hall and those who were unable to access the hall. To all the young people who have come from Africa to accompany the Burkinabé youth, welcome to the country of upright men. I will pay a vibrant tribute to our valiant defense and security forces and our VDP visionaries, who fight day and night so that Burkina Faso is peaceful and stands. I pause and request that may we take a moment to pray for those who are on the ground, and also for the souls of those who fell for our homeland. I thank you. Let us give thanks to God, who has allowed us to meet here today on the occasion of the celebration of the International Day of African Youth. I say this very often because human beings often forget God when they have no problems, when they are happy. But when worries come, that is when we remember God. Give thanks every day for the breath of life and for health. Youth, youth of Burkina, youth of Africa, youth, this is a phase of life where we have enough strength, enough energy, like the paraphraser, the slam poet, who has just passed. Youth is the time when we do not have enough time. We must take advantage of the time given to us, use the energy necessary to achieve our goals, to change the world, change our world, change the world of others positively. Children want to grow up to be young adults. Old people want to become young again. Everyone wants to be young. Youth is a blessing, so take advantage of youth to do useful work. That is why when I see in the chosen theme, the first two words challenge us, that is integration and security. Africa faces many challenges and we must ask ourselves questions. Is youth an asset or a handicap for the development of nations? The answer is simple and unequivocal, and you know it. Most developed countries have an aging population, and currently many countries have launched programs to rejuvenate their populations. Africa is fortunate to have a very young population. But why is Africa not developed? So we will have to look at the question of why Africa has a young population and it is not developed. And sir, the countries that call themselves developed are looking to rejuvenate their populations. So we have to turn our youth into a real asset and a driver of development for our continent. And to do that, we need integration, we need development, we need security, and we need to unite. Of course, you will hear about the African Union. Yes, it exists, but what is the effect of the African Union in reality? We will not be able to talk about integration in the theme and not talk about the African Union, because it is this organization that should unite us and create real integration. But we regret to see these wars that persist on the African continent that kill millions of young people, and that this organization that is the head of states and provided with an army cannot organize itself to support certain countries. The Union is not just a word. The Union is a symbol, and we young people should learn the sound of this situation to unite to make integration a reality. I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which hosts the headquarters of the African Union, plunged into divine conflict. And when I saw the Prime Minister go into the lengths of announcing the closure of Addis Ababa University to face the threat, I did not see the action of the African Union to protect these headquarters. Most Western states saw Addis Ababa fall and therefore packed up and left. Ethiopia fought, found an internal solution and lives more in peace today. The children of Congo have been dying for years. Several other conflicts such as Sudan exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the forces and all the strategies necessary to support these states so that they can find peace. We will not even come to talk about ourselves here in the Sahel. For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the scene of international terrorism. But we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem. Worse still, a few days ago, a foreign country in Africa openly announced that it had supported and participated in a cowardly terrorist and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation in Tinzouten. The African Union has not said a word to condemn this interference. The African Union has not said a word to condemn this interference by a state outside Africa in the internal affairs of our states. And I would like them to hear this outburst and therefore come out of their silence and take action so that young people can believe in the African Union. We need to unite. We need to unite, and the only way to unite young people, let me tell you that to unite, there are 3 words, 3 great vices that must be banished from our behavior and our life. I am talking about cowardice, treachery and incompetence. We need to banish. We need to banish these 3 words from our way of life, and I will explain to you why. Cowardice covers many vices. A coward is always afraid. And when we are afraid, we become slaves, we bend, and we lick others. Our ancestors were not cowards, and if we are cowards, our children will ask us questions. Imagine that in Burkina, we refuse to fight and we agree to submit to live in slavery. Tomorrow our children will grow up, they will ask themselves questions. That, were our parents cowards to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it. The coward is afraid, and the imperialists have understood this. They try to scare the leaders so that you become cowards. Because when you are a coward, all the other vices can be born. They do everything so that we are afraid. They come to our palaces, they threaten us directly or issue veiled threats. Of course, we respond as we should. They try to make us understand. They always give examples. They will tell us, you know, Thomas Sankara tried to do it like that, but where is he? He is dead. The Haitian president tried to do it like that. Where is he? He is dead. Gaddafi tried like that. Where is he? He is dead. These are words that are said to us in a veiled way to scare us. And then, we also often see some young people trying to follow suit or in another way. We can hear them say such and such a person reigned like this, he has the ICC on him, such and such a person reigned like this, he is in prison. All that is to try to scare us so that we become cowards, but I think they have not understood something. When we say homeland or death, we mean we will win. It is not just a phrase. It is not just a phrase, it has its full meaning. We are not afraid and we will never be afraid. They have surely scared many African heads of state. You often see when we speak out or when we have the opportunity to be in certain situations abroad, we often make remarks to challenge African heads of state to wake up and take care of our youth so that we can begin our real development. We are often misunderstood. Some have publicly responded to our remarks because they feel singled out. But I can assure you, youth, that when we find ourselves in the corridors, these same heads of state tell us you are on the right track. This is what must be done so that Africa can emerge. So we ask them questions as to why you do not do as we do, why you do not accompany us. Some tell us that they have thought about it, some tell us that they cannot. Dear elders, African heads of state, from the top of this podium, therefore, I would like to say that the African people are the most peaceful people. When you recognize a wrong, you must tell the people so that we are not afraid tomorrow to come out and tell the people. We apologize, we have been compromised, we have ill-gotten gains, we have been compromised by several things, and that we ask for forgiveness and we are getting back on the right track. And to start to really work for the independence of our states and our emancipation. And I think it is possible. If we remain in this position of fear, we will be cowards and history will judge us. Our children will ask questions, our grandchildren will ask questions. We are writing history, and there is no room to buy fear. If our ancestors had been cowards, we would not be here. Remember, I'll tell you an example of the Bamileke and Bassa people, I mean the Cameroonians. The Union of the Populations of Cameroon, who since the 50s began an implacable fight against the colonists. But they were massacred. The French colonial armies at the time poured in battalions of infantry, tanks, helicopters and wiped out entire villages. The most inhuman tortures took place during this period. You can do research on what they call the swing or the Bakassiva. Hundreds of thousands of populations were decimated in this way in Africa because they dared to ask the settlers to leave their lands. This resulted in a civil war that lasted several years. This is to say that people confronted the imperialists with bare hands so that we are here. There is no reason why we cannot confront the imperialists so that our future generations can live. There are many examples throughout Africa of courageous men who refused to be complacent, who fought, who faced it, and let us be worthy of these people. We are their descendants and let us be worthy of them. A coward cannot be worthy. Let us not be cowards, African youth. Because a coward is always a traitor, and that goes hand in hand. And they will try to scare us so that we are cowards. And if we are cowards, we will betray. We must banish treachery from our habits. Africans were traitors so that the slave trade could succeed in Africa. It is because Africans were traitors that colonization was able to hold in Africa. Let us question history, we will see. Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba was betrayed because he dared to stand up. And these same Belgian televisions came to Congo for some biases extended to individuals in Congo, for an interview or to please their population, and you were able to follow that. Lumumba, he bothered us, he died, we are happy. It is treason. Many other heroes have fallen so that we are here today. And it is a technique of imperialism to scare others by carrying out actions to really create terror. It did not start today. I will take the example of a warrior who fought for Ivory Coast called Victor Biakaboda. Read and you will understand. He came from a family of chiefs, not from the chieftaincy given by the colonist. He was a worthy child. He studied in Senegal, I believe, and he came to Guinea as a doctor, and when the RDA was created, he joined the Ivory Coast to lead the fight against the imperialists, against the invaders, against the colonist. He tried to organize Ivorian society. Everywhere, people began to speak out. There was a general in his time who massacred the Ivorian populations so that this spirit of freedom could never germinate. He continued his fight alongside Félix Houphouët-Boigny. They fought, but the most violent was Victor Biakaboda. He represented a threat to the imperialists. What did they do? In addition to massacring the populations who were demonstrating, one evening they killed him in an atrocious manner next to his chauffeur. A few hours later, when the people of Dimbakro heard the assassination, they marched, they demonstrated, but they were massacred by the colonial army. History is stubborn, the facts are there. After his death, which frightened Félix Houphouët-Boigny, they called him and they said, if you continue the fight, you will meet the same fate. He was afraid and he rallied to imperialism. He was appointed minister in France and later he came to take the reins of Côte d'Ivoire. And they used it to eliminate many other people who dared to raise their voice. And I think Thomas Sankara is a good example. If you are afraid, you will be a coward and you will be a traitor. Never be afraid, the struggle must continue. There are many other examples throughout the world, and there are these phenomena that they have also used for a long time and that they continue to use. You see, some individuals, for example, found themselves in other countries and supposedly created a parallel government to the government of Mali. You have heard this story. It is only a technique that existed in time. I will take the example of Ahmed Chalabi of Iraq. This mathematics professor, who was even in the Iraqi government, was recruited by the imperialists, and he formed this semblance of a parallel government to Iraq in the United States. And he was used to be the sacrificial sheep because he was the one who was told to publicly declare that Saddam Hussein was developing weapons of mass destruction, and he did so. They used him, and this Chalabi was used to kill millions of children in Iraq and destroy Iraq. And you know what happened to Chalabi? One evening after an interview, where in the interview he had even said that he knows that the CIA is on his back, a few hours later, he was found dead in his bed, dead of a heart attack. If you betray, you will have macabre ending. This is how imperialism has no friends. Imperialism uses you, and when it finishes using you, it does with you what it wants. Follow my gaze, you understand what I am talking about. It has always been like this. The third vice that I invite you to get rid of is incompetence. I come back again to the word incompetence that walked on my tongue. Incompetence, you will understand what it is about. Incompetence is a very dangerous phenomenon that they have used to destroy African society. In our administrations, there is a lot of incompetence. Let's face it. Incompetents have plenty of room next to imperialism, because incompetence can undermine a country's development. Incompetence can make you doubt yourself. Incompetent people like it easy. Incompetent people like everything for themselves. Incompetent people don't like those who are competent. They don't like those who innovate, those who research. Incompetent people are dangerous. When you are enlightened, incompetence does not like you. When you want to innovate, incompetence does not like you. Incompetence knows how to recognize the competent, and it will fight him until its last breath. Because it is afraid of the competent. Seek knowledge and work hard to be competent, and banish incompetence. Because through the distractions that they want us to adopt, we become incompetent. I'll give you an example. Social networks are the places where information is published today. People get information through the internet and many things. A young person who publishes an article on social networks about his farm or an agricultural project or a scientific project, I'm young, I know the terms. It may not have 1,000 views. But a young person who posts about trivialities, what I call nonsense, has millions of views. Exactly. As the young slam poet said, they want to make you waste time on trivialities. Become aware. Let's be interested in work and seek knowledge. Let's seek competence. Having fun is good, but we must work first before having fun. Seek knowledge, otherwise you will waste time doing nothing. And youth is the time, it is the period when you have to use your time wisely. The imperialists know this. That is why they are going to multiply everything that is a distraction. They are going to multiply everything that is an event that can distract you from work, so that you are incompetent. And right now, when you are asleep, the incompetent are chosen to lead everything that is an important structure. And you have no choice but to comply. Let's not be incompetent, let's seek knowledge. The incompetent often hide behind words. They use the terms democracy and freedom without realizing what they are about. Comrades, democracy is a state of mind as much as youth is a state of mind. It is supposedly democratic, but look at the world. How can we want to impose democracy by killing millions of those who call themselves Democrats? But look, we have seen scenes where people were prevented from entering assemblies. We have seen scenes where forces landed in assemblies to force deputies to take oaths. We have seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators, but they call themselves Democrats and we are called putschists. If this is democracy, I repeat, we do not want this democracy. And when you often see the incompetent, he does not seek to know what the meaning of the word democracy is in reality. He just clings to the definition that imperialism gave him and he starts talking about democracy without really knowing the foundation. That is incompetence. We must seek to know, have knowledge, look at the world to redefine democracy as we want it in Africa. Incompetence hides behind freedoms. Remember one thing, there is no individual freedom that exists. It is a fact. You really think that everyone is free? Freedom is collective. As long as we live in a society with rules, freedom is collective. Because if you don't respect the rules, you can't live in society. If you are free to speak as you want, the other is also free to answer you as he wants. It will be disorder. If you are free to drive in the street and go through a red light as you want, the other is also free to go through and hit you. You understand that if individual freedom takes over, we are in a disorderly society. That's why there are rules in society, and everyone must respect the rules, and here we are talking about collective freedom. So some people give themselves the right to talk about their own individual freedom. But they don't take others into account. I think that's also part of the incompetence because they don't try to understand. They take advantage of the rights that perhaps the states have given them to crack down, to do everything for them, by neglecting the freedoms of others. No, freedom is collective. Before doing something, we think about the freedom of others and we must not transcend the freedom of others. So that means we must have reserve, and once we have reserve, individual freedom does not exist. Freedom is collective and we must have this culture of collective freedom. So let us seek knowledge, read, question history, and do not read the history that they wrote in their favor. Seek knowledge through several sources and you will understand in the history that fought for Africa how we must fight to continue this struggle of our predecessors. And I will not end my remarks without making a rant again about the communication aspect because, as I say, it is the fatal weapon of imperialism. And you young people, you must do everything to know how to distinguish the true from the false. We will continue to dismantle the lies of the imperialist media that always try to create problems in Africa. Because these media, through their mouths, they can make you king tomorrow. Through their mouths, they can make you leave your position as king and make you a poor slave tomorrow. Be careful. I was watching a show, unfortunately not long ago, in Burkinabé, where a young journalist came out with a sentence that left me a little perplexed. He was talking about North Korea and the journalist said, "But they are dying of hunger in North Korea." Did he take the trouble to go to North Korea to investigate, to really see if they are dying of hunger? The idea that the imperialist media have sold of North Korea is more developed than many European countries. And because these media tell us North Korea is a dictatorship, people are dying of hunger, they are poor, they have nothing, we take it that way. But North Korea is a nuclear power. How did they do it? Let's be careful with communication. We must not blindly follow these lying media who only seek to divide Africa. It's logical, they are fighting for the interests of their people. And their people's interest is that Africa is divided. So youth of Burkina, youth of Africa, we must unite, we must banish cowardice, we must banish incompetence, we must banish treachery and all vices in our societies. We have opportunities to talk to each other. We give thanks to God for these opportunities that we have each time to talk to each other, to raise our awareness, and I invite you to go back and read again. To get to work so that the Africa that we want to be self-sufficient in food becomes a reality. So that the Africa that we want for harmonious development becomes a reality. Because I come back to your theme, there is no peace and security without development. The two go hand in hand. There is no development if there is no security. Because if there is no development, the youth will inevitably end up in vices. There will be no security. If there is no security also, there is no development. So the two must go hand in hand. Let us integrate this into our fights so that we can fight and develop. Let us move towards production, produce enough, transform our raw materials on site so that it is beneficial for our populations and at the same time export it. I wish you very good days of reflection on the chosen theme, also on the essential role of youth in this fight. Good luck to all. May God make sure that all those who have made the trips return home in good health, and that we can meet again whenever we wish by the grace of God. Homeland or death. I thank you.